Dad came to my apartment with toys for two young kids. I do not have any kids. I do not have kids and have never been married. My dad came to my apartment with gifts for two very young kids and just exploded when I tried to ask what he was talking about. Long-time lurker, first-time posting. I am coming to you, the brains of Reddit that always finds some angle I never considered, because my dad did something so wild yesterday, and I am spinning myself in circles about it. I'm trying to settle on an answer, but nothing really adds up. I'll break it down as thoroughly as I can, but my family has enough drama that it could fill 10 novels, so I'll be very to the point about it. So I will reiterate again that I do not have any kids and am not married. I have never been married, never even moved in with a man. Here are the people I can think of that might be involved in this somehow. I have one brother and one sister. Brother is in a long-term relationship with a nice woman, but they're both not interested in kids right now. Sister still lives at our mom's house, no kids, no long-term partner. My parents are divorced and my mom remarried. Dad stayed single. He lives with my uncle and uncle's wife. Stepdad is fine. They got married after I was out of the house. Sister reports that they're normal and beige together. He has no kids and has never met my dad anyways, so his family can be removed from the equation. Here's what happened. I have a shitty, low-rent apartment about 45 minutes away from my dad's house. It's on the third floor, and you have to walk into the apartment building and up flights of stairs to reach my door. Yesterday, around 6 p.m., my dad knocks on my apartment door. I wasn't expecting him, so when I answered, I was confused but pleasantly surprised. I greeted him normally, and he gave me a side hug because he had a few toy boxes in his hands. Like Fisher-Price toys for really young kids, even babies. I didn't say anything about them because I had no reason to assume they were for me, like I just didn't even register them in my brain. He looked totally normal. He wasn't breathing weird, wasn't sweaty, his pupils weren't huge, nothing was off with him visually. When we hugged, I didn't smell anything weird, no alcohol or smoke or anything, but my face wasn't too close to him. I said I was happy he dropped by, but why is he here? He said he was in the area shopping when he saw these toys, which he then held up for me proudly, and wanted to give them to the girls. I said, who? And he gave me two names I didn't recognize. I remember my brain sorting through the Rolodex of everyone I've ever met in our family, Terminator style, and nobody matched. As I'm standing there trying to match the names to any kids I knew of, he peeked over my shoulder into the apartment and asked if the kids are here or if they're with Mike. Again, who is that? Apparently, it's my husband. I must have been radiating confusion since now my dad is looking just as confused as I am, but still keeping up a good mood kind of vibe. I tell him I am not married and have no kids. At first, he insisted I did, and when I reiterated that, he just kind of shook his head. At this point, I'm getting really concerned. Is my dad lost? Confused? Is he having some kind of breakdown? I ask my dad if he knows where he is. He starts to get frustrated really quickly and confirms that yes, he knows where he is and who I am. I start to ask him questions that I've seen in movies like, do you know what time it is or the year? And he just gets more and more angry. He starts shouting at me right in my face, yelling, you think this is funny? And are you trying to make me look stupid? There's bubbles of spit in the corners of his mouth. He went from 0 to 100 so fast, it genuinely kind of scared me, and I just retreated a bit into my apartment. When I backed away, he took it as a personal offense and started screaming, oh, now you're scared? You're scared of me? Guess I'll just fuck off then. He storms off, literally stomping his feet like a child down the hallway. I thought about chasing him, but he was so irate that I didn't think it was a smart move. Whole interaction was less than 5 minutes. I closed and locked my door and immediately start making phone calls. Called my mom, uncle, and siblings. Nobody has any idea what just happened. I did ask my mom and sister if I was the crazy one and did have kids I just forgot about. They confirmed I certainly didn't. Uncle says that Dad left the house around 4 p.m. to run errands in my area, so that part was true. I told him what happened, and he said he'd try to figure out what's going on and would call with updates. It's tomorrow morning, and I haven't heard anything back. I spent all night trying to figure this out. Here are my theories. He has another kid somewhere that none of us know about, and that kid is married with 2 kids? But if that's true, why my apartment? Did he confuse me with his other hidden kid? He confirmed he knew where he was, so I'm not sure. Did he drive here on autopilot? He'd have to get out of his car and walk all the way up here, though. Should have been enough time to snap out of it. He had some kind of mental breakdown? This was my first thought, but he looked and acted so normal. He did this on purpose for some reason? Drama? Our whole family loves to stir the pot, but this is extreme and makes him look bad, which is out of character. He's developing dementia. I know early onset dementia could be the cause, but he's just barely 50. This is a huge escalation from nothing. If anyone else has any idea what is happening here, please share. Uncle has yet to call me back, and my siblings can't get through to my dad's phone. I think it's dead. I left a voicemail and text on my uncle's line, but who knows if he's seen them. I don't have any authority in his life. What the fuck happened to my dad? I don't think my dad has started any new medication, but he might have and just didn't tell me. I didn't ask about meds, so maybe this is it. But wouldn't I have noticed some kind of physical sign of something wrong in his brain? He looked and acted normal until he exploded and started screaming at me. I am definitely thinking he needs to visit the hospital, but I don't have any authority over that. He'd have to go himself, or someone would have to drag him. Maybe my aunt and uncle could force him to go, but I haven't heard anything back from my uncle and I don't have my aunt's contacts. Agreed, but I really don't know how to make him go. I don't have any medical authority over him, and I think calling the police would be a bad move that would destroy any trust he has in me. Like having him dragged to a hospital after a mental breakdown has to be bad for his mental state, right? Maybe someone lied to him, but for him to explode on me like that makes me think he genuinely believed it. And if someone had lied about me having kids and being married, I think he would have called right away and yelled at me over the phone for not including him in his grandkids' lives. This is also a large reason I haven't called yet. We're not white, and with how angry my dad got, I'm worried that he'll end up in a jail cell and not a hospital bed. Or worse, he'll just be shot. But if my uncle doesn't get back to me by tonight, I think this is my only option. I can drive over to his house, which is my next move if my uncle just refuses to get in contact with me. When I first called him, he said he was going to handle it, which I trusted since he's in such close proximity to my dad. But now that he's basically ghosting me, I think I'll have to handle it myself. I've been calling my uncle all day, but he's completely MIA. Every spare 5 minutes I have at work, I'm blowing up his phone. Total silence on his end. After work, I'm going to drive over to their house and just start banging on the door until someone lets me in, because not only am I terrified, but now I'm also pissed. Siblings haven't heard anything either. We've been touching base with each other about the situation, and they're just as lost as I am. I have no idea. My siblings and I have been calling his phone, but it goes straight to voicemail, so it must be dead. I've called my uncle 20 times since this morning, and he's still not getting back to me. If there's nothing by the time I finish work, I'm going to break down his fucking door because my dad could literally be dying and my uncle is just not talking to me. I called my uncle right after it happened, and I did ask if anything like this had happened before, and he said no. Every time I've tried to call him since has just rung until it reached voicemail, and a couple times it seems like he ignored my call. After work, I'm going to break his door down because not only is my dad possibly dying, but my uncle is just silent about it now too. He did confirm my name, that he knew he was at my apartment and the town we're in, but got so offended when I asked the year that he started yelling at me for thinking he's stupid. I don't know if he sees a doctor regularly, but he has mentioned going to those minute clinics when he's sick, so I'm not even sure if he sees a real doctor at all. If I don't hear back from my uncle by the time I clock out, I'm just going to drive over there and handle this myself if he's incapable or refuses to help. Update. Hi everyone. I wanted to wait until I had more information to post an update, but a lot of people were seriously worried about my dad and I, so I wanted to let everyone know what happened. Anyone who bet on head injury and drugs, you're correct. You can cash out your chips at the front counter, haha. There was no second family. I wish there was. He's got a massive concussion and serious brain damage. Doctors don't know how he managed to even drive to my apartment safely. They think he was on autopilot. The phantom kids are his coworkers. His brain somehow blended the details of his coworkers' lives into his own. Doctor says this is pretty common with head injuries. My uncle did find my dad and take him to the hospital. He decided not to update anyone because he didn't want to stress us out. I don't believe him at all. Later, I found my uncle's car at the hospital parking lot. I do not have words to describe what I was feeling, but it was mostly just rage. Like, what the fuck? Hello? He's been here the whole time? I went inside and started freaking out. I slammed my hands on the desk, screamed, knocked over a magazine rack. I'm not proud of it. I finally saw my dad. He looked terrible. He looked empty. He kept forgetting who I was. He kept forgetting where he was. Just like my dad, when I get upset, I get angry. I dragged my uncle into the hallway and demanded answers. Eventually, he admitted my dad hit his head earlier in the week. They gave him a couple prescription painkillers. I later learned from the doctor that there were enough painkillers in his body to numb a horse. I'm thinking they kept feeding him pills so they wouldn't have to take him to the hospital. I'm almost 100% sure this is their fault. Doctor says to not get my hopes up, but when doctors say that, it always means he'll actually be okay, right? The hardest part is the lack of concern from literally anyone but me. I had to blackmail my brother to get him to fly out. My mom doesn't care. Dad's family doesn't care. My sister barely cares. I'm the only motherfucker here for my dad, and he doesn't even know who I am right now. My dad is probably going to die, and I trusted the jackasses who killed him with helping him. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with everyone? Why doesn't anyone give a shit about my dad? Why doesn't anyone give a shit about me? I could have been a better daughter. I could have chased him when he left my apartment. I might have gotten hurt, but I would rather be beaten to a pulp than be sitting in a hospital room with my unconscious and probably dying father. I'm so fucking stupid. I'm sorry, Dad. I don't know. Maybe they were having an affair, but I doubt it. My dad and uncle have been in physical fights pretty regularly since childhood. It's their go-to solution for literally anything. When I was a kid, I watched my dad reel back and punch my uncle in the chest for stealing a lighter. My guess is something equally stupid happened and they fought like they usually do, but they're getting up in years and can't take the kind of punishment they used to. I only yelled at the receptionist and I apologized later after I had cooled down. I'm not mad at the doctors and nurses. I'm mad at my uncle and aunt and pretty much everyone else. The only people who seem to care about my dad at all are the hospital staff, and I'm really grateful for them. I promise I'm being as nice and understanding as physically possible and apologizing when my tone gets a little too harsh. A social worker did come talk to me after my uncle left, but it didn't seem like they were listening. I'll try and get someone to talk to me again since I'm sure my dad wasn't slamming painkillers like candy on his own. Kind of. I told him to dumb it down for me since I have no medical knowledge at all. I'm a line cook at Denny's, for Christ's sake. But he said massive concussion, brain damage, nerve damage, and cell death. He then said it's pretty bad and I shouldn't get my hopes up for recovery. He looked like he was about to throw up telling me that, so I'm going to assume my dad probably won't last long. I 100% think this is why they waited so long and pumped him full of painkillers. They hoped it would just go away, and even when they brought him here, they kept everyone in the dark about it, hoping the doctors would just magically fix him and everyone could go home and forget about it. Thank you. I'm really trying to remind myself I did everything I could, but it feels like I could have done more. It always feels like that, though. No matter what you do, it feels like it's not good enough in the face of something like this. I talked to the social worker here, and they didn't seem like they were listening, but I'll push harder when they come back around again. Thank you. I appreciate the mom love. My own mom actually gave me a bit of shit about missing work to be here with my dad. I haven't really talked to anyone but the nurses, doctor, and social worker. Do I need to request a chaplain, or do they come around eventually to patient rooms? I did ask if my uncle's story lined up with my dad's head injury, but the doctor just said it was an impact wound, whatever that means. He couldn't confirm or deny anything, and I totally understand that. He's not a cop and can't really tell me anything about that. On this, a couple cops just came to talk to me and get a statement. They seemed to be taking me seriously and took my contact info. I told them everything about what happened when Dad came to my apartment and what my uncle said, and how I didn't believe him and gave my version of things. I tried to give as much context as I could. I think they believed me, but who knows? They said they'd come around again soon. I'm not really sure what happens from here, but I'll be pressing for more information when they come back. I'll try and answer this as best I can, but it's long and complicated. There aren't any saints here. Even my siblings and myself aren't completely innocent. Mom and Dad were married up until the recession in 2008. I think the divorce came around 2010, but I can't remember exactly. Up until the economy crashed, their marriage was fine, but then bills got higher and their pay got lower, and they went from never fighting about anything to fighting about money. Who spent it, why they were spending it, if it was worth it, etc. I remember a pretty massive fight about my dad smoking more cigarettes than he was allowed when they were too broke to buy enough for both of them. Money fights never really get resolved. They just fizzle out until the next one. There was never violence from my dad, but my brother says he once saw my mom open-hand smack my dad across the face during an argument. Knowing my mom, I highly doubt she did it for fun, and I'm sure my dad said something to earn such an extreme reaction, but I wasn't there and didn't see it. My dad was pretty selfish during this time and would buy stuff for himself when Mom asked that money go toward groceries. It was only little things, but it adds up. An energy drink here, an extra pack of cigarettes there, a new pocket knife or hat, whatever little thing he needed to not feel himself. They were both so broke during the divorce that there wasn't really anything to split, just us kids. Mom got us in the divorce, and my dad just kind of drifted off for most of my teens. He turned into the phones work both ways kind of dad, but he'd turn up at events and holidays, so he wasn't totally absent. It hit my brother pretty hard. I do remember him crying late at night, asking why our dad didn't love him anymore. He's my dad's only son, and he got a lot of special father-son time when Dad was still living in the house. Mom didn't make it easy for Dad to see us, though. She insisted that if he wanted to see us, he needed to take us somewhere, and when you're broke, taking 3 kids out for dinner or a movie is tough. I know he tried, but I also know he could have tried harder. Mom took every opportunity to criticize him for being broke, but we were broke too, so it always had that undercurrent of spite still stuck in our heads. My sister doesn't really even remember our dad living at home, so her attachment to him is pretty minimal. My brother remembers, but also carries that resentment about Dad just kind of floating away from him and never rekindling that special bond they had. Dad bounced around on some couches until he landed a job, then rented a townhouse in a decent area. I think I was around 17 when that happened.
Brother was already out of the house by that time, and I was already on my way out, but I did go over there a few times, and it seemed like Dad was really getting his life back together. He called us more, made an effort. Eventually, something happened with the townhouse. I suspect rent became too much for him since the area went from nice to very expensive, and he moved in with my aunt and uncle. Effort pretty much stopped after that. From what I know about my dad, I think he was ashamed he was poor again and didn't want his kids seeing him like that. I kept in touch with him, but my brother gave up after he moved states, and my sister never really had much contact with him in the first place. Nobody really won or lost here. My mom did all right for herself. She actually owns her house, which is something none of us really expected to happen in our family. We've always been below the poverty line, and owning a house is a huge deal. There's tons more drama, but this is the basics.